I'm a big fan of speculative fiction. The ongoing challenge is to figure out what will come to fruition in the real world and what is doomed to failure. In other words, 50 years after the Jetsons, we're still waiting for that much vaunted flying car. But let's hope that a couple of speculative fiction books predicting the rise of an Islamist theocracy in the West is also the political version of the flying car, something that's not here yet and may never arrive. Sadly, however, given the ongoing malaise of sharia creep, it sometimes seems as though some speculative fiction in this vein will become hardened reality with the passage of time. Indeed, as my boss Ezra Levant and Daniel Pipes reported here earlier this month in light of the Paris massacre, there is a reluctance of the established elite to take tangible measures regarding homegrown Islamism, even in light of deadly terrorist attacks. As Pipes notes, when it comes to the so-called 4 Ps, politicians, the police, the press, and professors, unrelenting violence has a contrary effect to taking a hard stand against hardliners. Pipes points out that those charged with interpreting the attacks live in a bubble of public denial in which they feel compelled to pretend that Islam has absolutely no role in the violence, in part out of concern that to simply recognize it would cause even more problems. It's the ostrich strategy, folks. Bury your head in the sand and hope like hell the problem will just go away on its own accord. This is exactly the sort of mindset that has created fodder for speculative fiction writers who have predicted the eventual ascension of Islamism in the West. For starters, there's Robert Ferrigno's Prayers for the Assassin. The year is 2040 after the Second American Civil War. New York and Washington have been obliterated. Although America still exists, it is fractured into 2 republics. The eastern U.S. is the new Bible Belt with its capital in Atlanta. The western states, however, comprise the Islamist Republic, the capital city being the formerly ultra-liberal enclave of Seattle. Things are the same out west, but different. The aircraft carrier Ronald Reagan has been renamed the Osama bin Laden. The Seattle Seahawks now play out of Khomeini Stadium, and the cheerleaders at the Super Bowl aren't skimpily clad women, but rather men brandishing broadswords. Barbie dolls are still sold, but they're only available wearing burqas. Amusement park souvenirs include suicide belts for children. The majority of Americans in the western states have now converted to Islam, a movement that was expedited by both the Second Civil War and by public pronouncements from Hollywood in which converting to Islam, as opposed to Scientology, was the oh-so-trendy thing to do. Of course, given the brutality of the Islamic Republic, there's another good reason to convert to Islam: self-preservation. After all, San Francisco's iconic Golden Gate Bridge is now known as the Bridge of Skulls. The skulls that decorate the bridge are from beheaded homosexuals who failed to get with the Sharia law program. Now, Prayers of the Assassin and the sequel, Sins of the Assassin, play out as de rigueur thrillers, pitting the good guys against the bad. In this regard, French novelist Michael Houellebecq's political satire, Submission, is far more scaled back, but actually comes across as far more terrifying. In Submission, the year is 2022, and with the help of the French Socialist Party and the centrists, the imaginary Muslim fraternity party, led by Mohammed Ben Abbez, defeats the far-right Front National. President Mohammed Abbez soon enacts sweeping changes to French society. The Sorbonne is privatized so that only Muslims are now allowed to teach there. Equality between men and women is quickly done away with, and polygamy is legalized. But hey, it's a small price to pay for freedom, for peace, after all, isn't it? The novel's protagonist is Francois, a flawed 44-year-old professor. He becomes increasingly exasperated in the new Islamic Republic as he witnesses several intellectually inferior colleagues snag good jobs and acquire attractive wives after their conversion to Islam, of course. Spoiler alert, at the conclusion of Submission, Francois has given up his agnostic crusade. In fact, he is poised to convert to Islam thanks to the prospect of a more prestigious job and some pretty wives that have been chosen for him. In this regard, submission is eerily reminiscent of Orwell's 1984. If you recall, folks, 1984's protagonist, Winston Smith, surrenders, loving Big Brother. Naturally, both prayers for the assassin and submission have been condemned by the left. The only surprising thing here is that the authors haven't been charged with spreading hate speech. And yet, even here in Canada, we see more evidence of Sharia creep, be it people voting in face-concealing masks or a public and a supposedly secular school transforming its cafeteria into a makeshift mosque. As the 4 Ps vilify the likes of Rigno and Houellebecq, I say this: don't shoot the messenger. And let's not forget the most famous quote of Edmund Burke, namely, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. For the Rebel.Media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies.